76% of people on their deathbed, their biggest regret is, I wish I would have lived for me, not what other people wanted or the life that people expected of me. And this comes out of research out of Cornell by a psychologist named Dr. Gilovich. And so people regret the things they didn't do, not the things that they do.
All right, everyone, welcome to Heal Thyself. Thank you so much for joining. Look. I can't wait for this show. I can't wait for you to listen to this because it's a beautiful combination of inspiration, wisdom, and education. These are my favorite mixes for the show, right? Because it brings you on a little journey, right? You're learning, but then you're also feeling, and then you're also relating it to your life, and then learning more, and then feeling more. I'm so excited. Anyway, thank you for joining the show. I know how important that resource of time is. I really do. And it doesn't go past me. Your time is essential. And thank you for putting your time into really opening your hearts to all of this, my life's work, right? So check this out. I have a close friend on here, and this doesn't always happen. My friend Ben Nemtin, he is one of the founders of The Buried Life. You might remember that show on MTV. He's a New York Times bestseller, top world motivational speaker. And he's going to talk to us about some very important stuff. Now, I always talk about authenticity. He's really going to put it out there in the actionable ways how to change your life. And I mean it. I mean it in the sense of, you know how people say, change your life by doing this one thing. He's actually going to give you the things and the steps to take in order to change your life, to come back. A lot of you ask, a lot of you DM, Dr. G, I don't know how to find my purpose. Listen to this guy. Dr. G, I'm going through depression. I don't know how to get out of it. Listen to this guy, right? Dr. G, I've always wanted to do this in my life and I don't know how to get there. Listen to this show. It's going to be so important. You're going to feel inspired. You will feel it in your bones because I promise you he's coming authentically out with his words. I can't wait for you to listen. There's nothing that's not achievable. And we're going to lay out the groundwork for you on how to make reality whatever you've been dreaming of. Really, I mean this. I can't wait for you to listen. Let's get to this awesome, awesome episode. When people are on their deathbed, what is the number one regret that people have?
76% of people on their deathbed, their biggest regret is, I wish I would have lived for me, not what other people wanted or the life that people expected of me. And this comes out of research out of Cornell by a psychologist named Dr. Gilovich. And so people regret the things they didn't do, not the things that they do. In the short term, you regret the things you did, but in the long term, it's the inaction that sticks around longer. So I read this study and it honestly shook me. Like, not many things shake me. And I read this and I was like, wait, whoa, why are more people not talking about this? This is 3/4 of the population that will live their whole life. They'll get to their deathbed and they'll realize too late that they blew it. And they can't do anything about it except for just have this realization. I couldn't imagine that feeling on my deathbed, suddenly realizing, shit, I didn't live for me. I was living for other people. And I think we think it's selfish to live for other people. But what I've learned through this journey, which is really, I stumbled into this realization that you can't serve others unless you serve yourself. And this bucket list for me was the first time I'd ever written down the things that I truly wanted in my life, my dreams, versus this life that I was living subconsciously for other people, the dreams that I thought you wanted to achieve to be a successful person. But when I wrote my list, it was really the first time I declared what I wanted. And then my friends and I went after those things, and it was the first time we had actually taken action, and people showed up to help us unexpectedly. And I started to feel more alive. I started to feel energized. I started to see that life's magically unfolded in front of my eyes. And then the day-to-day would kind of bury that true self, and I would start to feel a little depressed. And I wasn't able to be there for myself or other people. And so this was a long journey of a lot of ups and downs, realizing that being authentically yourself not only fuels you, but it fuels other. And we all have these gifts that were given to us that only we can bring to life. And if we don't, then they're going to die with us forever. And I think that's that regret that comes up at the end. That's like, shit, I knew I had a chance. I knew that I had something deep inside me that I could offer the world, but I was afraid, or I didn't think I could, or I didn't think I had the time or the money or any myriad of different things that come up. And I think we have an obligation to act on those things, because I can't bring your gifts to life. You can't bring my gifts to life. But if you would have listened to the dialogue in your head when you started this podcast, or when you broke away from doing what you're doing, being a doctor, to become something different that you know was your true calling, if you would have listened to that, nah, like, this is risky, like, I'm not good at this, X, Y, Z, then you wouldn't have been able to really be that full expression of yourself and impact the number of people that you've impacted. And I think that that's something that is a shame. I think that if more people did that, it would actually change the world. So it's, it's like this big idea, but I really think it comes back to this being true to yourself, not only so you don't have the regret at the end of your life, but also so you can unlock these gifts that you are given, and that impacts more people. And when you are your true self, you inspire others to be their true self. So it creates this ripple effect of positivity that lasts far. It just could last longer than you're around.
Okay, thank you, Birch, for sponsoring this show. This is a long-time sponsor, and they have a big part of my heart because they're really making good products out there. And as we wrap up 2023, it's time to really start investing in yourself. Now, a lot of us don't think about what that means. For me, it means, where do you sleep? How well do you sleep? And if your mattress is non-toxic, right? These are the most important things, because we spend so much time on our beds. Birch makes a mattress that is crafted with organic and natural materials that have been sustainably sourced. Their mattresses are free from all that nasty stuff like polyurethane foams, which can have dangerous off-gassing, of fiberglass that can be harmful to your respiratory system, nervous system, immune system, all the systems, right? But unlike other brands, Birch mattresses don't contain any of that fiberglass and a lot of other chemicals. They come with these two important certifications, and it's the GOT certification and the Green Guard Gold certification. Both these certifications show that it has none of the polyurethane, but also not just that chemical, many other off-gassing chemicals that are there for the life of the bed. This ensures me that I'm getting a bed that is high quality and not off-gassing anything through the life of the bed. So it's really important, because again, you're spending so much time sleeping, so many years of your life. You want to invest in a good quality mattress, not only comfortable, not only functional, but non-toxic. I've had my Birch mattress for 2.5 years now. I love it very much so. I love how I fall asleep on it. I love that it feels like I'm sleeping on a cloud. I love that it reduces any pressure points in my body. I love that I'm not sweating in it because there's good airflow. I love that it's mildew resistant. I love that it's non-toxic. So I have a peace of mind and I'm sleeping well. With Birch Mattress, you get a 100-night sleep trial along with a 25-year warranty. The best part about Birch is it delivers a mattress right to your door, free within the United States. And they offer an in-home setup and removal of your old mattress to make your buying experience as convenient as possible. It's always a pain to throw away your old mattress, right? Each Birch mattress comes with 2 of their Eco Rest pillows. They're made from recyclable materials. They're breathable and better for the environment. I love my Birch mattress. I know you will love it too. If you're looking for a new bed, check out Birch Living. Visit birchliving.com/heal-thyself to get the 20% off Birch mattress plus 2 free Eco Rest pillows. And if you have little ones, right, we have to think about their beds early on, their quality of their beds, especially as their system is so vulnerable. Check out the Birch Kids Natural Mattress. It is a 2023 Good Housekeeping Parenting Award-winning mattress out there. Let's talk about AG1. If you are a longtime listener, you know I love AG1. It has been one of my favorite green powders on the market. I've been drinking AG1 for about 2 years now. I started drinking it because I wanted to find something to help boost my energy and keep me focused throughout the day. Now, because AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement, that means it supports your body's universal needs for gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. Now, since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition. That means it's continuously refining the formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline of health. Now, you all know this. I've said it many times now. I hate taking millions of supplements every day. I do. This is why I love AG1. It's just one delicious scoop, and you're getting prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes for all the gut support, magnesium and B vitamins to have energy throughout the day, adaptogens to help balance your body's stress. If you want to take ownership over your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/heal-thyself. That is drinkag1.com/heal-thyself. Check it out. I'm hearing all this and I think to myself, with my doctor hat half on, is psychosomatics, right? Like if we're living a life that's not true to us. I mean, you said something that was really telling. You were doing all these things off your bucket list. You felt alive. You had all this energy, and then this day-to-day design of life started repressing and holding you back, and you started feeling a little bit contracted. For me, it's like, how many people are living on that spectrum really contracted, sort of turning their whole back on themselves? And on the percentage wheel of disease, like how many of us are sick almost exclusively, if not a big part, because of that? I would say a lot of people. Mm-hmm. That's why I've dedicated myself to trying to bring authenticity to people. Mm-hmm. But in your experience, I want to go back to somatically. How did your health feel when you were truly in alignment with that bucket list authentic self versus coming back to the day-to-day?
Well, first, I just want to quickly touch on what you said, because I think you're spot on. I think a lot of the physical manifestations of illness is also mental health, right? Depression is also, the root word for depression is suppression. And Gabor Mate talks about this, of suppressing your true self and suppressing play. Right? Play is so fundamentally important in our developmental years, and we suppress it as we get older. That's why we connected, because we both love to do that. And I think that's something that we can talk about that is often overlooked as a pillar of wellness, but also the suppression of your authentic self. And there's all this research that's coming out that correlates purpose and well-being. So people that have a sense of purpose bounce back from illnesses quicker. And your bucket list is just a list of all the things that bring you that sense of purpose. My definition of a bucket list is anything that brings you joy and happiness and fulfillment in all 10 categories of your life. So not just adventure and travel, like bungee jump, skydive, travel to Europe is what we think about innately, that a bucket list is made up of, but it's also relationship goals, mental health goals, physical health goals. How do you want to give back? Creative goals, financial, professional. So you start to think about your list as a device to remind you of all the things that keep you living on purpose, so that you are then a reflection of your true authentic self, so that you are more powerful, you can bounce back from illness, but also you make the biggest impact. So I definitely believe that a lot of the mental health challenges and the illnesses that people are experiencing in part come from suppressing that true self. And I've experienced that in my life. When I first came out of high school, I was really putting a lot of pressure on myself to succeed in all aspects of my life. Huge amounts of personal pressure, not pressure from my parents. I just put a lot of pressure on myself to succeed. I got an academic scholarship. I was on the U19 national rugby team. I wanted to be liked and in the cool crowd, right? I just really wanted people to like me. And I made the national rugby team, and we were training for the World Cup, which was in Paris, France. And I would go to the field every day. I practiced my field goals, but I had missed a big kick in the final game of our high school season, and we lost. And I thought, what if I miss an easy kick at the World Cup? What if I blow it? I played fly half, so I kicked the field goals, sort of called the plays. And I would think about this at night, and I got anxiety, and I started losing sleep. And I basically was crippled by this anxiety. I couldn't go to school, couldn't go to practice, dropped out of school, got dropped from the team, became a shut-in in my parents' house. And I was completely frozen with this depression. And what happened was I ended up getting pulled out of the house by my friends that summer after I dropped out of school. They brought me to a new town, and I was forced to talk about what I was going through, and I was forced to get a job. So I started feeling a bit of confidence and self-worth because I was doing something. I was sharing these things with my friends, so I started to feel not alone because I knew that they had gone through something similar once I started talking about it. And I started to meet people that were my age that were inspiring, new kids that had started their own businesses, kids that had traveled, kids that were creative. They'd think of something and just do it. And I was like, these new kids that I'm meeting, they're giving me energy. So I realized like, okay, some people give me energy, some people draw energy away from me. So I need to only be around people that give me energy. So after that summer away, I'm starting to feel back to myself, and I think, okay, I'm gonna try and only surround myself with people that inspire me. And there was one kid that was inspiring, and he was a filmmaker from my neighborhood, and his name was Johnny. And I called him up out of the blue. I was like, Johnny, you make movies, I wanna make a movie, let's make a movie. And that's when this bucket list documentary started, right? So that's the story, but if you zoom out and look at this, 20 years later, basically, I look back, and what really happened was, back to our conversation around being our authentic self and purpose, in high school and university, I was living the dream, but it wasn't my dream. It was the dream that everyone told me, this is the dream. Be on the national rugby team, get an academic scholarship, have a ton of friends, right? And so I realized now in hindsight, I didn't actually love rugby. I played it because it was it was like football in the South was rugby on the West Coast of Canada. Right. It was that big. And, I was studying I was in kinesiology. I was going to be going to sports medicine because I played sports. Maybe I'd work for an NBA team or something. Yeah. And I was not doing anything creative. And deep down, all I wanted was to do a sketch show with my friends like Saturday Night Live or make a documentary. And so finally I sort of followed that instinct and called my friend, and we started this journey. And then we made a list of all the fun things we could do. That was our bucket list. If anything's possible, if you had all the money in the world, what could you do? No limits, we're not even gonna accomplish any of these things. It'll just be fun to go out and try. Cover Rolling Stone, go to space, pay off our parents' mortgage, plant a tree, grow a mustache, give away $100 bill. And then we thought, every time we cross something off our list, we'll help a stranger do something on their list. And this was only supposed to be a 2-week road trip, but this was the first time that I started to truly live for me. And that began this journey of self-discovery, of understanding who I am so that I can live closer to that. And this path has taken many twists and turns over the last 17 years, and it's kind of brought me to speaking and sharing this message this way, but it's gone from documentary to TV show to book to other television shows to speaking to the Bucket List Journal. And it's woven in and out because I've been trying to follow my inspiration, follow that true self. And when I do that, the experience that I mentioned, when I don't do that, is I start to feel depressed. That is the straight up feeling I have. And I've gone through a few depressions since that major depression, but I've learned things about myself, and I see the signs coming earlier, and we can talk about what those are and what habits I've learned to help me bounce back. But one of the tools in my mental health toolkit is purpose, because I know when I start to feel depressed, it means that a big area of my life, I am not aligned with my authentic self. And it's either my job, what I'm doing every day, perhaps it's a relationship that I'm in, or it's some major pillar of my life is not aligned. And I stop and I think, okay, shit, I need to make a difficult decision here and change something. And it's really hard to make those changes. But I find when you're on the other side of that, then the opposite of that, when you are living aligned, life starts to happen for you. Yeah. Magic starts to happen, things fall into place, big pieces of your life that you've been dreaming of start to click together, and you become in flow. And that's when you are living your true self and aligned, the right people come into your life and the right things happen. And so that's the difference between living true to yourself and not living true to yourself.
Powerful, man, because you just have the gift of depression in many ways, right?
Totally.
Your body saying, hey, you are completely out of alignment. And now, thank God, you have the wherewithal to be like, okay, this is sort of veering off track right now. But it's funny how many of us abandon ourselves when we feel out of alignment in order to keep the partner that is out of alignment for us, or the job that is out of alignment but paying us a lot of money. And then we fall into a depression and not understand why. I mean, it's so palpable when you talk about how it affects you. Now, for you, when you know you're out of alignment, how does depression feel for you?
If I think back to the darkest depression that I had, in university, one of the scariest pieces of it is this is 2000 and early 2000s. So people weren't talking about mental health the way they're talking about mental health now. I didn't know this happened to anyone else. So I was like, I'm broken and I will never come back. All of a sudden I went from this guy that was A-type, social, loved being with friends, to my parents would force me to take a 15-minute walk every day just to get out of the house. And oftentimes I would go hide in the driveway behind our van for 15 minutes and come back and tell my parents that I went for a walk. So this is the level of anxiety that I was feeling. I didn't think, I couldn't see any of my friends. What am I going to say to them, And I remember this all stemmed from not being able to sleep, right? And you know how important sleep is. And so as you start to lose sleep, everything just gets compounded and you start to spiral. And so I remember just trying to sleep in the middle of the night and just being so terrified of the darkness. Like, how dark can this go, and not knowing when it would stop. And so it felt just completely all-consuming. And out of that, now that I have great therapists, I understand that I have a tendency to work myself too hard and not give myself breaks, understanding how important sleep is, understanding how important quality time with people that I love, understanding balance and meditation and being in nature and all these things that I talk about as this sort of mental health toolkit of things that are important. I still feel like that sometimes, and it feels like things are just slowing down and not happening the way that they should be. Things are hard. I don't know why it's so difficult for me to get this task done, or I don't know why life seems just sticky and difficult. Like I'm going through molasses trying to get things done, and I'm not as efficient as I usually am, and I feel negative, and I'm just stuck, right? Like that's what it starts to feel like, and I have trouble sleeping. So my biggest indicator now, it feels for me, is that I feel tired, and it's because I'm not sleeping. So I really have to focus on, okay, what do I need to do to sleep through the night? And that usually puts me back on track.
So you got the somatic part, you're moving towards that, but literally the physical manifestation is the sleep for you. And then it can create that cycle, right? The no sleep, So, viewers and listeners, let's think about, maybe for the first time in your life, maybe this conversation is prompting you to think, how do you feel when you're out of alignment? Maybe now we start thinking about our energy. We might think about our sleep. We might think about sort of anything in our body, how we feel. Maybe we just become isolated, don't want to talk to people. Maybe there's more anxiety. Different people express differently. Let's see. For me, I feel heavy, molasses feel for sure. Mm-hmm. I feel disconnected, so sort of avoidant. Like no one can find me. I'm under a rock.
You isolate. Yeah.
I isolate pretty hard if I feel that way, but I don't let myself get there because I know something's going on. Maybe I need to work out more, see that nature more. Maybe I need to question, is this project good for me? It's made me be better at saying yes and no, actually, because you can sort of feel what's going on. A lot of you out there don't know that a lot of the symptoms you're suffering with are because of an electrolyte deficiency. No one's telling you this. A lot of the reasons why we're going to the doctor is because we are just dehydrated. So simple of an intervention. Now, LMNT is a tasty electrolyte drink that has all the good stuff and none of the crap in there. That means a lot of the salt and none of the sugar. A lot of us think about salt being the thing that dehydrates us, but it's not exactly that way. You see, LMNT has a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, right? It has none of the sugars, artificial colors, artificial ingredients, gluten, or fillers. LMNT is formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs. It doesn't matter your diet. it's important to replenish electrolytes. It could be early in the morning, it could be after a workout, it could be after the sauna. You want to make sure that when you're drinking water, you're hydrating yourself. You could drink a ton of water and not be hydrated. Remember that. LMNT may help prevent symptoms of dehydration like headaches, muscle cramps, fatigue, sleeplessness, and other common symptoms that we see across the board. I have felt much better implementing LMNT, especially after my saunas. I thought I was drinking enough water. I came out the saunas with a headache and really fatigued, and my muscles really tight. So ever since implementing LMNT as part of my sauna routine and every day in the morning routine, I'm a lot more hydrated. So right now, LMNT is offering you, the Heal Thyself listener, a free sample pack with any purchase. That is 8 single serving packets free with any LMNT order. This is a great way to try all 8 flavors and share LMNT with a salty friend. Get yours at drinklmnt.com/DRG. The deal is only available through my link. That's DRINKLMNT.com/DRG. LMNT offers no questions asked refunds, so try it totally risk-free. If you don't like it, you're gonna get your money back. You got nothing to lose, no questions asked. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, when it comes to therapy, it is so important at bringing awareness to what is going on, the things that we're not speaking about and the things that we are fully disconnected from. It is the very practice that opens up the closet door and lets out everything. You ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? You know, oftentimes we are running with stories that we're conditioned with that aren't necessarily true, but we're still utilizing as our operating system. That happens, right? And you know sometimes what you should do or what's good for you, but sometimes you're kind of stuck and you can't do it. This is where it comes in. It opens up that closet door, everything comes out, and you get to see yourself again from a new light. It's always helpful for learning positive coping skills. How are you going to express your needs, wants, and desires? And how are you setting boundaries? A lot of us are so disconnected for how do we communicate our boundaries, whether it's in a relationship or at work or anything of the sort. When we are not seeing what is inside of that closet door, we are fully disconnected. So therapy empowers you to be your best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. We know that. If you think about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Make your brain, your health, your mental connection your best friend. And you do it with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/DRG today and you get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DRG. So naturally then, you know, there's people viewing and listening, they go, okay, I love this bucket list idea, right? Mm-hmm. Or how do people start to bring in front of them, well, what do you want to do for you? Or what questions do we ask? What practices can we do to start really slowly but surely coming back to ourselves and operating from that sense of self?
Well, one is, I think it's important to understand that sometimes we don't even know if we are not living for us. So it's important to stop and actually take the time to reflect and feel what we feel when we think about certain things. So you're not so much following your head, you're following feelings. So I encourage people to think about, and before they even begin, just to remove all barriers. So just imagine you have $100 million. Imagine you have the ability to do anything. What would you do? Just a complete blank canvas. You can do anything, right? I mean, again, when we did this, there's definitely some benefit from being young, dumb, and broke. Like we were very young, very dumb, and very broke when we started. We had nothing to lose, right? We had the naivete of not knowing how hard it was going to be to make a TV show, write a New York Times bestseller, like all these things. We just thought, we'll just go try, you know? And we were young, so we had that youthful energy, that exuberance. And I think we all have those things in us at all times, but they get buried. So sort of tap back into that youthful, positive naivete of like, fuck it, let's just think about anything I've ever wanted to do. So coming from that place, then it's like, okay, anything's possible. And we can talk about how to achieve those things next, but just start from that place. And then follow feelings. What are you curious about? Or what excites you when you think about that thing? You know, when you plan a trip with your family or your friends and just the thought of it gives you butterflies, you just can't wait to go on that trip. That feeling is what you're going after. So what's something you could sort of elicit some of those feelings when you think about that thing? Or just think about your life. What are the things that make you feel more alive? What are the things that give you energy? That's another great way, because this goes for people and things. I still subscribe to this idea of surrounding myself with people that inspire me, because that one decision that I made in university completely changed my life. And I continue to try and surround myself with people that give me energy and inspire me and lift me up and believe in my dreams and also inspire me to think bigger and give me that energy. So who are the people that give you energy, and what are the things that energize you? And so it's important to pay attention to that when you are doing something. Do you feel more alive, or do you feel more like yourself, or do you feel energized? And same when you hang out with people, do they make you feel like that? So as you now start to think about those things, you know, you can just sit down in a quiet space and start to write anything that comes to mind. And then I also find it's helpful to have a process when I'm writing down my goals, because I tend to gravitate to those adventure and travel goals, because those are the things that are, they come to mind the easiest. So you can start there, but the reason I wrote the bucket list journal is to give a process of thinking about all 10 categories of your life that would fill all buckets of your holistic experience of being a human being. And so you think about, okay, travel and adventure goals, but then like, what type of impact do I want to make? How do I want to give back? What are my relationship goals? One of the top 5 regrets of the dying, this is from Bronnie Ware's book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, is I wish I would have stayed in contact with friends. So what relationships are important to you that you have to invest in order to keep connected that might just have fallen by the wayside because you've been too busy? Loved ones or friends, that goes in your relationship category. Creative goals is another often overlooked pillar of wellness.
Yeah.
When you have this creative expression, that's your true self. You're in a flow state, and that is therapeutic, as you know. So it's like, you can't minimize these things, whether it's music or improv or art. Like, you need to protect time for those things, and those are important. So, you know, you go through, there's physical health goals, mental health goals, financial, professional, and as I mentioned, material goals too. It's okay to have material bucket lists. And what are the things that you want that bring you a sense of happiness? Just make sure that it's bringing you happiness. You're not doing it for validation of others. So you can kind of go through these 10 categories as sort of as a prompt to have you think about all the things that you might want to do, and you want to write them down. And you want to write them down in a journal or a notepad, because you want to come back to it. You want a reminder that they exist, and you also are going to update it as you grow, because as you grow, your values and your goals will change. You also want a reminder that you've done things that you thought were impossible, because I guarantee you have achieved things that younger Dr. G thought, no way this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And we forget about those things. We're always looking forward, and there's always someone else doing something at a higher level, and we're looking to do the next thing. We forget about how much we've achieved. So your list also is a reminder, hey, I've achieved a lot of these things that I thought were impossible. I've proved to myself that these things were possible already. So I can keep going. And that's why you want to write it in a journal, not on an app or not on a loose-leaf piece of paper, because you want to come back to it. It's like a safe place for your dreams to live. So that's the first step, is stopping, taking the time, and writing it down, and make sure that you're really following these feelings, not your head. Because your head is usually justifying, oh, well, dad wants me to do this, family wants me to do this, and society wants me to do that. And it's important to keep those in mind, but it's also important to make sure that you're living for your true self, because ultimately that's going to be best for your dad, that's going to be best for your family, and that's going to be best for the rest of the world.
You know, perfect time, because we're about to start the new year.
Yeah.
So now everybody could go out, get the bucket list journal, and now you can write that entry for yourself. Let me ask you, from the author of this journal, do I have permission to write out my 10 things, but what if I rip it out and put it on my fridge? Is that okay?
Yeah, I like that.
That's okay to see it every day, put it on my fridge.
I think the more you see it, the better.
The more you see it, the better. And I love the idea about this. It's also what you think is unachievable. You know, like, I can go learn how to surf. I never did that. I'd love to go, but I can do it right here on Santa Monica Beach. But what if I want to surf with Laird Hamilton? Oh shoot, I don't know. I don't know no Laird. I don't even know how to surf. How's that ever gonna? But like that's a big goal that we can make happen, right? And I love that. But what comes up is the thought of fear, right? For the people who are not thinking or wanting to think big on this bucket list journal, fear is going to come in and play a role. How do people move through that fear?
Fear is the biggest barrier.
The biggest barrier.
So, and then again, this comes from research out of Cornell by Dr. Gilovich that I mentioned, before. So there's 3 barriers. Fear is the biggest, the fear of what other people think or the fear of failure. And we can talk about that. There's also barrier number 2, which is the fact that there's no deadlines for these goals. And we have deadlines for every other goal set in our lives. We have work deadlines. We have leaders trying to keep us accountable to those deadlines. We have salary that keeps us accountable. Like we have deadlines with family. We have deadlines in life. But with these personal passions, hobbies, dreams, there's no deadlines. So we always say, oh, I got to do this. Let's do that later. Yeah. And we kick it down the road until we realize it's too late. I'm out of time. I'm on my deathbed. I didn't do it. So that's the second problem with these goals. The third is that usually we're also waiting to feel inspired to go after these goals, but the inspiration never comes. And we're waiting for the perfect time, but the perfect time never comes. So very quickly, the way we get over all of those barriers, number 1, there's no deadlines. Therefore, we need to create accountability. Number 2, there's no inspiration that's going to magically hit you.
Yeah.
So you need to create your own inspiration by taking small steps of action, even if you don't know how you're going to achieve the goal. And the third is we need to understand that fear is your friend, that fear that you feel, that's you understanding who you are and you're learning about yourself and you're evolving. A snake doesn't outgrow its skin without being uncomfortable. It's part of the process, and then it's grown and it moves on. But in that moment, it sucks. It's like, what the hell is going on? And then it moves through and it's good and it's evolved. And that's the same with being vulnerable. That's your body saying, I don't like this, but it's essential for you to move forward. And so that fear is actually your body saying, this is important. This is a tax you have to pay to achieve anything that means something to you. If you're not feeling that discomfort, it doesn't really mean much to you. And so you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, it's important to say that is if pursuing this thing doesn't risk your well-being, doesn't risk the well-being of your family, right? So you have to keep in mind that there is this caveat that you're not putting yourself at risk. You're not putting your family at risk. You're not putting your financial well-being at risk. So these are like your basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs are met, right? And that's important because a lot of people, that's not a reality. They can't just go and try and do something and because they have real responsibilities that don't allow them to take more than an hour or two off. And so, and I get this question a lot. It's like, okay, like you went off with your friends for a road trip, and you went and did all these things. That's great. I can't do that. I've got a family. I've got a job. It's like, I completely understand it. That's not what this is about. This is about you figuring out what is important to you and then understanding what is the time that you can commit to this thing. And if that's 1 hour a week, it's 1 hour a week. If it's a weekend, a year that you go away with your friends on a trip because this is you connecting back with your people for one weekend, 1 year, whatever that might be, you carve that out, you share that with your friends and family so that they know and that they understand it's important, and then you protect time for that. So, I just wanted to mention that because I think it's important to talk about. Everyone is at a different stage in their journey. But I think this applies to wherever you are at in your journey. I also feel privileged to be able to have done the things that I've done in my life. And not everyone starts from the same place. And I've realized too that this bucket list is not about the accomplishments, and it's not even about succeeding. It's just about doing. It's about the act of doing, because just by doing, you inspire other people to do their thing. But then also when you reflect on your deathbed, you can look back and say, hey, at least I gave it a shot. And that's all you need to keep your dreams alive. So, back to these 3 barriers, we have no deadlines, so we got to create accountability. We got to create inspiration through action, and we have to really identify the difference between fear, which is ego-based, and risk. And risk is real. So, there's different ways that we overcome those barriers, but those are the 3 barriers, and fear is the biggest.
Yeah, I can imagine how many people may have been contracted because now we're facing the things we want to do for years, sort of that our soul has been wanting to express through us for years. The gifts that you said inherently in the beginning that we all have are sort of scary because it may be out of the alignment of what we think we're supposed to be doing because of society and our friends and our family. But what would be life without expressing the gifts that you have for yourself and everyone else, right? You said the world would be a better place. And I firmly believe that. What about when I have this journal, beginning of the year, I'm filling it out, and I go, whoa, that one is a big like bucket list, whatever category the 10 it's in. That one's a big one. I don't know if I can do this. You said take small steps, right? Let's say go back to Laird Hamilton, I don't even, he surfs, right?
Yes.
See, I don't even know about the surf life, but it's the first thing that came up.
He does, yeah.
So small steps to create that, because you guys did some crazy big things.
Yeah.
How do we achieve those crazy big things?
So, let's get back to the barriers, right? So one of the barriers is really just inaction. There's such power in action. We are actually happier as human beings when we are in action versus passive. So not only does it build momentum towards the thing, and it's the only way we're going to achieve the goal, but we're actually, even if we're not moving towards it, we're still happier being in action than just being passive. So I'm a firm believer in looking at your goal. Okay, it's Laird Hamilton. He is the person I want to surf with. How am I going to do that? I have no idea. I don't even know if he surfs, right?
Right? He may be retired. I don't know.
Who knows? So first it's like, okay, what are the easiest things I could do to move towards that goal? Well, one, let's see if he's still surfing. Let's see where he lives, right? Google search. So like research,
Okay.
2, I'm going to call my friends that are surfers. Maybe they know someone that knows someone. I am going to, become an expert in Laird, right? I'm going to start to really understand like what his life's been like and learn about him. And so it's just about, you have your big goal, and then underneath that goal, and this is what you do in the journal, I encourage people to write 3 48-hour action items. You're just trying to create inspiration through action. You're the architect of your own inspiration through action. So you don't need to know how you're going to achieve the goal. Yeah. There's initial small steps. You'll start to build inspiration, and then you're starting to follow that energy. So anything on your list, all you're doing is you're just collecting data. You're just saying to yourself, I think this is something I would like to do. Yeah. And then you're going to try it, and if it gives you energy, you're going to do more of it. If it doesn't, you're not going to do it. So you're trying all these things that are either going to fuel you or not. And if you start to feel inspired by looking up Laird and starting to learn about him and talking with friends, and you're feeling this energy, and you're like, talk with this person, you talk to another person, and you're starting to get close, and you're feeling like, I'm going to start taking surf lessons. And that's that feeling you want to continue to fuel. Right. So, but you can only feel that if you try. And so you want to just make it as easy as possible, which is like, what are the easiest things you can do to start taking action? And you start to build that momentum, and it takes time. And as long as you're continuing to be energized, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be easy, or it's not going to be difficult. Persistence is so key with all of these big goals, because most people give up. The reality is,
sure.
And you just have to keep going, which means you have to be creative with your persistence so it continues to inspire you. So, once you've written down, you've identified that's important to you, you want to choose those 3 easy action items. And then another big piece of it is you want to build accountability, so you want to talk about it. So you want to tell your friends, hey, my dream is to surf with Laird.
Yeah.
Not only is that going to build accountability, because you're going to feel accountable to the people you shared it with, they're going to see you next time and be like, hey, Dr. G, like, how have you met Laird yet? And you're like, oh shit, no, I got to keep moving towards that, right?
Yeah.
The more you share, the more accountable you feel, but also the more you give other people the opportunity to help you. And the only way that we cross things off our list at all from day one is through the help of other people. And when we went out, we actually never thought that we were going to film our bucket list items. We thought that it was going to be a documentary about helping other people. But unexpectedly, all these people showed up out of nowhere and started emailing us saying, I saw your list. Number 8 is ride a bull. I can get you on a bull. Or I saw make a toast at a stranger's wedding. My friend's getting married. I'm the best man. I can get you in.
Amazing.
And so all these people came out of the woodwork to help us. And we started to realize that when you are bold and share authentically and with passion, people will step up in unexpected ways. So we continued to share, and the more we shared, the more people stepped up. So people will help you, when you share authentically, but you got to move through the fear, right? Because that's the other piece of this. The fear of what other people think. What are they going to think when I tell them I want to surf with Laird and I don't even know what surfing is really, right? Like they're going to think you're an idiot, right?
Yeah.
And I can't do that. Like, well, I don't even know how to surf. What do you mean I want to surf with Laird Hamilton, the best big wave surfer of all time? Like, and what if I fail? Then they're going to know I'm a failure. So the fear of what other people think or the fear of failure is the biggest barrier, which is why we don't share. But you can use that fear to your advantage, because when you share, then you're like, oh shit, now I got to do it. So you want to share and you want to start to create that inspiration through action. And then you really want to move through that fear, knowing that people, you think they're thinking about you, but they're not really thinking about you that much. They're busy living their life. They don't really care.
It's true. I think to myself, I can't help but think to myself, you're saying all these steps esoterically, right? Energetically speaking, the hardest part to creating with energy is the first step, opening the door. So that's the biggest barrier. But when I hear you say take the small steps, the way I feel into my body is that what we're doing is making these small proclamations every time through action, where our frequency of I can't begins to more like, oh, maybe I can, maybe one day, actually, maybe like this year. It starts opening up more and more, because we as energetic beings have an unlimited capacity to create even what we think is uncreatable. And the accountability step is from me listening to you, the magic part. Because what you're doing is speaking it into existence right in front of you to the people who are going to hold you accountable, removing the fear and actually proclaiming even stronger. And that's bringing your field even more expansive and bringing that reality even closer. So like, you figured out an energetic recipe, like a bucket list recipe, and like kind of marry them together. And I see the big picture on how and why it's so powerful. And the beauty is like the statement you said, like doing these things, we need them with the help of other people. It makes you realize your humanity and how collected and conscious we are, connected, all of us. And of course, people come out the woodwork because people love authenticity. They want to show up for people who are authentically expressed. It's that fear, moving through the fear. So now I'm thinking about all the things.
And people respect that courage.
For sure.
Even if they don't agree with what you're doing. And we can all think of people in our life that you think, I really don't agree with that person, but I respect them because they are unabashedly themselves. And I love the idea of, that energetic shift when you open the door. And that's the hardest part, is like opening the door. And I think when you make the first step small and easy, the door gets smaller and it's easier to open, right? Yeah. And then you can just move through it a little instead of pushing this huge door open and making this big fuss of, here we go. It's just like, you know what? There we go. I'm just going to see. And then the accountability that's the key.
It's the key.
You cannot underestimate the power of accountability. I wouldn't have done any of these things if I did them by myself. I did them with 3 of my buddies, and that's why these things happen. When I didn't feel like I could do it, they said, you can do it. When they didn't feel like they could, I said, we got to keep going. And for over a decade. That's what drove us. And the more we shared it, the more we got on the radio, the more that we shared it online, the more we felt accountable. And you can just, in your life, just think about in the workplace, okay, all we have are layers of accountability. That's why we have leaders. That's why we have a boss. A boss keeps us accountable. We do what we say we're going to do because we know we have to. Our boss is going to check in on us. We have a salary that keeps us accountable. We don't want to let down our team, our coworkers. That all keeps us accountable. We have none of that in our personal life.
Yeah.
So how can you create those same structures of accountability? And that means sharing your dreams, getting an accountability buddy. You are 77% more likely to achieve your goal if you send regular updates to an accountability buddy. Think about training, whether you're training for a marathon or you're training just in the gym. That's why personal trainers are so brilliant. Half the battle is just the sunk cost of I paid this person, I'm going to do it. That creates accountability.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to do it because you paid money, right? And they're waiting for you at the gym. So you're like, shit, I don't want to work out. You're like, God, I got the trainer there waiting for me. I got to go. Versus I have a gym membership. No, I'm not going to go. Or even more so, I have a group of friends, then we all train together every Tuesday and I got to go. And then you ante that up, but if you don't go, you got to pay $10. So think about, that's why in the journal, you create a deadline. When you have a deadline, that creates accountability. You set a reward for yourself so that when you do your thing, you get something, whether it's you get to buy something you've always wanted. I used to go to the gym and I would get my favorite smoothie all the time. I just went to the gym just because I love that smoothie, right? How can you get an accountability to enroll them in doing the dream with you? Or they check in on you. You want to write a book? Get an accountability buddy, where you're going to send a chapter to them every month, or get an editor and you're going to do it with them. You're paying them to help. It's that stuff is key. And man, that accountability is just about everything.
I think to myself, earlier this year, I had an accountability buddy, my friend Adam. Mm-hmm. And what we would do is, because him and I sort of struggled with speaking affirmations, we sort of we did, we've done a lot of work, but holding it in, the things we want to say. So we would make ourselves uncomfortable and give an affirmation to a stranger every single day. So at the end of the day, he would text me what he did and I would text him what I did. And my God, if we missed a day, we had to do 3 the next day. So we made sure we did it every single day. But I'll tell you right now, in retrospect, I felt so good in my body. I felt so loose, so invigorated. There was no molasses.
Yeah.
And it's something as simple as giving to another from the heart, not from the head, but from the heart. So shout out to accountability buddies. I know that they
Adam
really
was my accountability buddy too for a minute because I saw him in his house. He had pull-up rings.
Yeah.
And I got some in my house.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm like, how many do you do? He's like, I do 100. I'm like, you do 100? I was like, he's like, you can get to 100. He's like, just do as many as you can in the morning, and take a break, do more, take a break, just do as many as you can. And every day I text him, I did 30, I did 31. And just the act of knowing that I was going to text him made me do it. That's it.
That's it.
It's as simple as just having someone that you are sending that update. That is so powerful because then you have that kind of, that thing that typically holds you back, which is the fear of what other people think. And it suddenly tips and it works in your favor because you think you're still afraid of what they think a little bit, but it's driving you to do it so that they don't think that you're slacking.
Yeah, 100%. So, people are listening and they go, there's so many things that I want to do that are really big, seemingly unachievable, but now we have some formula. Yeah. But as you did this stuff with your friends and in your life, what are some of the big, you mentioned some crazy ones, like give a toast at a wedding. That was pretty crazy. But what are some of the big things so we can really illustrate to the people out there that as long as you put the intention out there, universe is conspiring to give this to you as long as you keep showing up. What are some of the big things you and your crew did that were really I thought this would never happen. This one was crazy.
To be honest, I never thought we would get a show on MTV because, this we grew up on an island in Canada, and this was, 15 or so years ago. And MTV was like the thing. And it just was this big dream to make a show that we were in control of. We always wanted to make a show for our friends, so we wanted to be in control of it. And we even got offered a show in Canada, and we turned it down because we weren't going to be executive producers, and they were going to, they could technically recast us. Yeah. So we thought, no, we're just going to, so we raised money through sponsors, and we did it on our own. And so keep in mind, it's like 3 years of doing this on our own, hustling through school, doing it in the summers. So every summer we would do a longer road trip and a longer road trip, and we would fund it on our own. And then finally we took the footage we've been filming for this documentary and we cut our own pilot. And I met someone that knew someone in LA and flew down to LA on a buddy pass, which is like a free flight from a friend, started meeting people. And I just started to understand the business. And over a year and a half, finally got a meeting with MTV. We had cut our own pilot, and we ended up selling it to them as executive producers, which for people that had never worked in television, to make that jump, all of a sudden we were filming, the four of us, to filming with a crew of 50, 60 people, with 400K budgets an episode. And we're still like wanting to do this the way we've always done it, which is like, we want to streak a field and get away. We're going to do this, and we're going to ask for permission after to air it. And they're like, well, that's not how you make reality TV. Like, we're going to go ahead and we're going to clear the venue and tell them what we're doing so we can air it. Yeah. And we were like, no, we're going to do it all real. Yeah. And, it was like 2 years of our lives in a black hole. There was legal fights to try and get the permission to film these things. We were, trying to play basketball with Obama. We were trying to get Jay-Z to come to a house party. We were surviving on a desert island. We were asking out Megan Fox on the red carpet. Like, it was just a total, just full send. And we just wanted to give people that were watching the feeling that we got when we were in high school, which was that we got inspired by a friend who started a clothing line out of nowhere that triggered us to think, wow, if he did that, I wonder what I could do. So the whole idea of giving people this tiny spark of, oh, I wonder if I can do my thing. Yeah. If these guys, and the only way that spark would happen is if it was authentic and people saw us as who we were and the show felt real. And so that's why we were adamant that it was real. And it was very hard to make a show like that. Yeah. But ultimately, I think we succeeded, and we made this show that was very different, right? Like, it just, one, to have it be authentic, but also half the show was helping other people with their dreams. And at that time, that was something wasn't really happening too much. And so that's something that I'm really proud of, and it was so hard to do, and like, it was such a big dream of ours, and that really was the beginning of the project, was wanting to create like a show or a documentary. So that was a huge one. And then there was other mind-boggling list items, like we played basketball with Obama. It's like a long story, but like, got 100 no's. We just were campaigning in DC. We were challenging the president to basketball games and just showing up at the court waiting for him. We were picketing outside the White House with signs. We were taking meetings. We were showing up at the YMCA where we thought he worked out, or other cabinet members. It was like a total just throw shit against the wall, see what sticks. Yeah. And finally we got so many no's that they felt bad for us. And they're like, okay, why don't you come to the White House and we'll show you the basketball courts. We'll just give you a tour. Yeah. And we're like, all right. And we go and we're shooting around in the basketball courts. And then we just hear President Obama walk on the court and say, hey guys, I heard you're in town. Thought the least I could do is shoot a basket with you. And he'd come down from the office, from the White House, and just shot around with us for like 20 minutes.
No way.
Yeah. And we were just like totally in awe. Yeah. So, moments like that where you're sort of, your whole belief system changes because you see this thing that you were convinced was impossible, and now you're seeing it happen. And so I think everyone has the ability to prove to themselves that they are able to achieve things they thought were impossible. And that's what those moments have done for me. And I think the more you experience that, the more you realize that anything is possible. And then you start to look at your goals and challenges through the lens of not, can I do this? Do I want to do it? Does this align with my true self?
Yeah.
And that's a huge shift. And so that's the shift that I'm trying to make happen in people. And a lot of it is around just trying to startle people enough into this like truth that they are going to die, right? Because this project started around this question, what do you want to do before you die? That's what the question we asked everyone on the road to figure out what was important to them. That's what we asked ourselves, because death was the only thing that put things in perspective. And so thinking about death as much as you can is so important to keep things in perspective.
Yep.
And ties into this research of like people not realizing that life is short, and if they don't do it now, you will regret it.
Yeah.
And that would be a terrible place to be, and it's never too late.
Yeah.
I talk with people that I've gone to like aging communities, right? Like old folks in their 80s and 90s, and they start. So it is never too late. A year from now, you will wish you started today. I guarantee. Just take the easiest step, because you don't deserve to have those regrets. And I tell you what, when you're on your deathbed, and this is a great quote from Les Brown, he's a speaker and author. He says, imagine you're on your deathbed, and as you're about to die, all the ghosts of the dreams you never did, the ideas you never fulfilled, the things that you wanted to do but you didn't, all these ghosts start to come into your deathbed. And they say, we came to you when you were alive, and only you had the power to bring us to life, and you didn't. And now we come to die with you forever. So, heavy.
That's heavy. I got some chills when you said that. I really did. Yeah. You know how people are like, I got real chills down my spine. I got to do that damn improv class, man. Now, after this conversation, I'm already signing up for it on my phone.
That's right.
You know, it's like, it is time, you know, and you know, something that resonates with me, and it is that, like, the improv stuff that we were talking about before, because I love acting. I love being creative. I love just shooting from the hip. I love it. It brings me the most life.
Well, it's so clear that it is your true expression, right? Like it's such a no-brainer. Like you have to do that to be fully expressed. If you're not doing that, you're not the full expression of yourself. Therefore, you're not going to be as happy as you should be.
Yeah. And it's funny, after I do a performance, I'll be like, I feel healthy right now. It's like this level of health that is like past supplements, past like sleeping well, past working out. It's like
vitality.
I say it. I'm like, I need to do this more. Yeah. But now I'm like super inspired. Move through the fear. And just knowing that like you can play basketball with Obama, right? Like, whoa. And it's the collective, like, this is happening. Amongst every single no, it is like the collective focus, like, yes, I can create that reality. The last part of this, and I really, something that stuck out too that you said is when you're authentically you can positively affect your parents, your loved ones, your family, your friends. How does that start shifting the way they feel about you? Let's say the parents are like, I wanted you to become a lawyer. You don't become a lawyer, you do something else that is opposite of what they thought for you or wanted for you, but you're authentically expressed. What changes in the relationship?
I think that, so with parents, this is a tricky dynamic, and maybe your parents will just always see you as a failure if you don't become a doctor, right? But so that's okay in the sense that it's more important for you to be happy than to make your parents happy. And ultimately, I think they will be happier if you are happy. And they will get to that point at some point, even if it takes them getting to that point on their deathbed, which is, I've seen that with my parents' parents, is at the end of their life finally realizing and forgiving, and that's what happens. So, it's part of it is you coming to the realization that it's okay if they don't accept you. What's more important is that you are aligned with who you truly are. So, but from what I've seen is that most of the time, our parents want us to be happy. And they think that becoming a doctor is going to make us happy because they have all the best intentions. That's how you're successful. That's how you make money. Therefore, you will be happy if you do this thing, because that is what made people happy when they were growing up. But It's different now. And so I think just understanding that is important, but ultimately, what is really going to make them happy is you being happy and having a loving relationship with them. And if you feel resentment towards them because you did something for them that you don't really want to do, even if you think you're above it, on an energetic level, you are going to hold that against them.
Yeah.
And you are not going to have as deep of a relationship as you can with your parents or the people around you. So I think there's that direct relationship with the people that want the best for you. Then there's this indirect relationship with people around you that you are straight up going to inspire them to do the thing that they want to do, because they're going to see someone that they know do something that they thought couldn't be done. Or they're going to see you be the full expression of yourself and say, wow, Dr. G's doing improv. He seems so happy. That is so cool. He's having so much fun. I think I want to try improv. I mean, that's kind of what happened when I just went to my first improv class. I posted about going to improv. I was super scared to do it. And I did it with my girlfriend, and we had an amazing time. And I posted about it. And I had so many people be like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do it. You do what you love. You inspire other people to do what they love. So you're going to create this ripple effect just by simply doing what you love. Again, not about the accomplishments. I don't have to do the full improv class. I don't have to become an actor.
Yeah.
It's just the act of doing that inspires other people. Just like my friend that started a clothing line in college that inspired each of us individually. Keep in mind, me and my three friends, we weren't friends before the buried life. We knew each other because it was a small town in Victoria, British Columbia, but I never hung out with them one-on-one. Each of us independently were inspired by this collective friend who started a clothing line. And we were like, holy shit, how did you do that? You just started a clothing line? You're not in fashion. You don't have any money. He's like, well, what do you mean? I just did it. I took out a loan. I did it. I was like mind blown.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anybody do that before.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, you did that. I wonder what I could do. And I thought, I want to make a TV show. I want to make a movie. And but that's not where it stops, right? We do the show. The show is seen by a ton of kids in high school. All these kids think, Buried Life guys did that. I wonder what I could do. And now we're learning all of these musicians, athletes, creators, like big talents, started doing their thing because of the show. So I say that not to say we inspired them. Our friend that started the clothing line started this. And that's the power of the ripple effect. You look at that clothing line objectively, you say that was a failure. Was it a failure?
Right.
If he wouldn't started that clothing line, we wouldn't have started Buried Life. And all these people that were inspired by Buried Life to do their thing. And then we're talking some of the biggest YouTube creators, some of the biggest musicians, NFL athletes, Academy Award-winning filmmakers decided to start playing football, to start making movies, to start making videos, posting on YouTube. The impact they have had. We're talking millions and hundreds of millions of people. And this is not exaggeration. Hundreds of millions of people from this one kid that decided to start a clothing line that you would look at and say it was a failure. That's why it's not about doing, it's not about the success, it's about doing. And so that's the power of doing what you love and the ripple effect. So this is such a powerful idea because it proves that one person can create incredible impact. And now we're finally finishing the documentary that we started 17 years ago, which is, and we're doing it with a group that was inspired by Buried Life, a group called Yes Theory. It's a big YouTube channel. And we're going to make the film that we've always wanted to make, which is quantifying this ripple effect, proving this is a theory, right? Dating, just tracking it back to this kid, and then quantifying the impact, looking at all the musicians and all the actors and all the athletes that were inspired. So I just think it's such a inspiring idea because it's a no-brainer, right? Yeah. One, it doesn't matter if you achieve your goal, so you can take the fear and the pressure away. Two, you win because you're doing something you love, and you get to inspire other people. So it's really important that we pursue these even small things like doing improv.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to close it, man. I'm thinking about the ripple effect, and we never really have examples because no one ever really thinks about that picture. But that's a beautiful picture because just the decision to do a clothing line because it was in alignment with his heart and soul, literally 15 years later, has had more of an impact than, anyone who contracted and said, I can't do that. This guy who just said, I'm going to do this clothing line in school, right? And that was mind blowing in college, right? You're just like, what? How did you do this? You're like an adult now already? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are you still going to the frat party tonight? Now you're designing. So, dude, I got to thank you for your work. And I got to thank you for this inspiring conversation because I've put off for 2 years to do this improv class and it's inspired me even. So viewers and listeners, whatever. I mean, look, I'm over here on that vulnerable state, ready to get over that fear. Viewers and listeners, all of you, I mean, here's your opportunity. We have the new year. The Bucket List Journal, where do we get this?
The easiest place is Amazon. Search the Bucket List Journal on Amazon or my Instagram, which is at Ben Nemtin.
Beautiful. I want everyone who's felt inspired by this convo, go get that Bucket List Journal, set it up for your new year, and dedicate yourself, if anything, to this green book in front of me to make sure that really you're living authentically, which is, to me, from my health perspective, the most important thing for health.
100%. Because you meet people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and you see them and they tell you this is how they live, and they look 20 years younger. They have this vibrancy. They're glowing. They're alive. And you can tell that this is how they live their life.
Yeah.
And I think a cool thing to end on, which also exemplifies this ripple effect, is just this week, something really exciting happened where I had a Zoom call with Dr. Gilovich. And Dr. Gilovich is the professor at Cornell that I mentioned that did this research that found that 3/4 of the population on their deathbed, they regret not living for them. This was the thing. This article was the catalyst for me to shift into speaking in a real way and try and wake people up to this reality, because I was like, we need to talk about this more, And so I've been doing this, and he's like the center of my talk. Like I talk about him and I put a photo of him every single time I speak. And I got to have this conversation with him, and the way that it happened is a perfect example of the ripple effect, because I got a DM from a student at Cornell, and she said, you don't know me and you don't know this, but the reason why I am at Cornell, which is my dream to study at Cornell, is, you inspired me to take a shot and apply to Cornell. And now I'm in Dr. Gilovich's class. And I know you speak about him a lot. Do you think, do you want to meet him? And I was like, absolutely. And she's like, okay, I have I don't know when I can get a meeting with him, but she got a meeting with him, and she's like, I'll just try and call you. So I Zoomed with him as he was in the meeting with this girl, and we had this talk, and it was like 20 minutes, and I was like so starstruck, but not only was it so amazing to meet someone like that, but he also is so insightful because he started to tell me about this new research that he's doing. One of the things that I talked about already, which is we are happier as humans in action versus passive. Another really cool thing is this headwinds, tailwind asymmetry that he's starting to do research around, which is when you're biking, you notice the headwind and you don't notice the wind behind you, right? And so you're just struggling against this headwind. And when you turn around for a moment, you notice that you have a tailwind, but then you don't notice it anymore. And it's the same with life. Moving forward, you notice all the barriers. You don't notice the things that are going well. And that's why gratitude is so important, because it's an active practice to remember those things that you just lose sight of because you don't notice them anymore. And that life is the last thing that he's researching, and has come to this conclusion that it's obvious now, but it's just like a cool idea, is that life is about collecting experiences, not things. So invest in experiences and relationships, and that's what brings true happiness. And so that's what your bucket list is just a list of those experiences. So it was a really cool full circle moment. It was the way that happened, of course, is through the ripple effect, because that's the only way that things tend to happen.
Yeah.
So another example of the power of the ripple effect and things coming full circle when you continue to move from that place of authenticity.
Beautiful, man. Well done. I appreciate the inspiration. I appreciate the conversation. I feel very much so on fire.
Me too.
So thank you, my brother, for coming on. Ben Nemtin, everyone.
Thank you.